Hey everybody, Robin from Backscatter here in the Nauticam booth at DEMA 2018, and I'm here with my good buddy Hergen. How are we doing today, Hergen?
I'm good. You managed to corner me and get me on camera again. I don't know how you do it.
Every year, you can count on me. I'm going to find you here. I'm going to put a microphone in your face.
It's what I live for.
So we're taking a look at everything that's kind of cool and new here from Nauticam. Why don't you give us a rundown?
Well, you know, one of the great things about Nauticam is we really do try to cover the full range. So on the table here, you can see we've got everything from the TG5 over in the corner there, which is one of the greatest compact cameras of late. That whole range, ever since it started, has really been a popular favorite among underwater shooters. And we've got everything up through our cinema rigs, our SLR rigs. We've even got the new Fuji GFX50S.
Close enough.
That's a mouthful. Anyway, we've got that there as well. In addition to some cool new Nikon and Canon gear here as well. So let's just run through the whole list and see what we got.
Yeah.
All right. So really new, shipping recently. Let's go for some housings first. Down there in the front, we've got the new Nikon housing for the Z7 and Z6 cameras. It's going to be the same housing for both of those cameras. The Z7 is out, Z6 has not appeared yet. But basically, it's a full-frame Nikon mirrorless camera. So I know there's a lot of people out there excited for this, you know, people who really like mirrorless but really want their Nikon full-frame. Well, we've tried to make it even simpler for those people. To run those regular F-mount lenses, which you can do with those cameras, you do need the adapter. And so the way that we've integrated that into the system is instead of having to have a port extension to use those adapters, we've had it such that the adapter is inside the housing itself. So basically, any of those F-mount lenses that you want to use, you can still use with the same extensions and the same ports that you are using on your full-frame Nikon DSLR housing.
Very, very cool.
Nauticam, yeah. Nikon DSLR housing, of course, right? And then as soon as those new Z-mount lenses start coming out, we'll of course issue a different set of port extensions and if necessary, different glass for that as well. But so right now, basically, if you have Nikon F-mount lenses and you want to use them on your new Z7, you're good to go, ready to go.
Fantastic, love it.
And then we've also applied the same principle here to the Canon Eos Usr. So this is meant for that new Canon Eos R mirrorless full frame Canon camera. Same thing, we've integrated that adapter into inside the housing. So you can still use those EF mount lenses with those same port extensions and same ports that you were using. So if you're moving from a 5D Mark IV or a 1DX Mark II, you're moving over to that mirrorless system. Up until now, you can still use those same port extensions and same ports with those lenses with the adapter that's inside. Now, in both of those cases, once you move to that new lens mount lens, you are going to have to remove the camera from the housing to take that adapter off. But on the outside of the housing, there's lens release buttons for each of those different lens mounts. So just switching the lenses, as long as you're staying within either F or Z, or for the R or the EF, you're going to be good to go. You're not going to have to take the camera out of the housing to remove that lens. So again, trying to make it as easy as possible on people, you know, whether they want to use those legacy lenses or whether they want to use those new lenses once they become available.
All right, awesome. And I mean, I know we love some housings, but I know we're seeing some other stuff here that maybe, you know, it kind of stands out a little bit to me too.
Yeah, I think one of the things that Nauticam, I mean, we do a lot of things well, but one thing that we have really been pushing for the last couple of years is our optics development. And of course, that whole thing started out with our super macro optics and our compact macro converters, so those SMCs and CMCs that everybody's familiar with. And those have also evolved. We started developing some wide-angle corrective optics as well. Most people are familiar with that WWL1, which is our wet wide lens. And that, of course, could be interchangeable underwater. And that basically took a 28 millimeter equivalent lens and turned it into 130-degree wide-angle ultra sharp, close focusing lens. I've used that lens on numerous cameras, everything from mirrorless cameras to compact cameras, and you know, it has a very distinct look and it's a really cool look. Some of my favorite photos have been taken with that lens, and it's just incredible because it's also a zoom through lens. So if you're using it behind a 28-2x zoom lens, you can get some zoom through and really take some unique photos. And again, with some things like the bayonet mount system, you can take that WWL underwater, slap a CMC on, and maybe even get some macro on the same dive. And that kind of flexibility is really what we're trying to go for with these optics that we're developing. So the sort of next step in the evolution after that was, how do we bring that WWL goodness to the full frame and APS-C and also the cinema market? And that's where this piece of kit, which is definitely a staff favorite. All of us at Nauticam, all the guys at all the dealers, this thing is amazing.
And this is the WACP?
This is the WACP, or wide angle conversion port. And basically what it is, it's a 0.36x conversion lens. So basically what it's doing is it's optimized for a 28 millimeter lens, a 28 millimeter equivalent full frame lens. And what it's doing is, again, similar to the WWL, it's giving you a 130 degree wide angle that is extremely sharp in the corners and extremely sharp in the center. It's so sharp actually that you can get acceptable sharpness at f/5.6. And that's pretty impressive.
That's awesome.
Especially since you're getting 130 degrees, which is wider than a 16 to 35 at 16. So incredibly wide, incredibly sharp, and again, zoom through. So with some of these, as we call them, the vintage zoom lenses, and also some of the modern zoom lenses when you're putting on an APS-C, for example, for the cinema lenses, for the cinema systems, you can get zoom through as well. So again, you can get those wide, medium, and tight shots on one system again. So for those people who miss their camcorder and miss the ability to zoom in and out and get those different shots out of the same camera, we've got it back for you again. And it's not just for video, it's for stills as well. All right, so we've got full frame support for it, we've got APS-C support for it, also for the cinema systems we've got support for it. It's an incredible piece of kit, and I highly recommend everybody give that one a go.
It's one of the single most powerful optics you can have in your kit for building in that diversity and that wide range of shots without sacrificing any image quality, which usually that versatility and ultimate image quality, that's kind of the pendulum we're always balancing,
exactly.
You know?
And in this case, it really seems like we get to have our cake and eat it too, and get the best of both worlds in one lens. And also, because it's not a very large diameter, it actually packs quite well. It's got its own case that it comes in. So traveling with it is not that big a deal when you compare it to a 230 or 250 millimeter dome with that 70 mil extension. Space-wise, you're really not looking at a significant gain in terms of space. You're actually getting a little bit more space, but it is a little bit heavier than that equivalent setup. And so what you can see here real quick, the reason it actually looks so wide is it has a built-in buoyancy collar. So it is actually an N100 port, or an N100 diameter. But we've put on this larger buoyancy collar around it, and basically that's bringing it to about half a pound negative in the water. So
very cool.
Really not that much of a compensation necessary.
And even though this is so awesome, this isn't even the freshest, most awesome optic you guys have here.
I've got another two to talk about here. We're just moving right along here. So right there on your other side, this is the MWL1, so macro to wide lens 1. It's been common, I would say, for compact and mirrorless systems that you had a little bit more versatility in terms of, I'm on a dive, I can shoot a little bit of macro, I can shoot a little bit of wide, I can do some medium stuff. Like we were talking about with that WWL system with the CMC, you were able to get a little bit of both worlds. And so some people may be hesitant, they feel like, I'm ready for an SLR system, I want to move up, but I don't want to lose that flexibility. We heard you, and we've got something for you here. So what the MWL does is the MWL goes in front of a 60 millimeter macro lens on a full frame camera, and you can flip it down right there. And what you have now is you have 150 degree wide angle. My colleague Todd took it to Blue Heron Bridge the other day, got some really great stuff, came back all smiles. Not only do you have that 60 mil lens, so you're shooting proper macro, 1-to-1 macro, and you can just flip that MWL1 down, and you're shooting 150 degree wide angle. He said that lighting it was actually quite simple, and he was able to get some effective light on subject and get some really cool subject matter. It is important when you're shooting that lens to realize you do have to stop it down. Like we're suggesting f/16 and above. So it may not be great for every situation that you have, but it's giving you not only the ability to shoot proper wide-angle images on a dive, it's also going to be able to get you that sort of forced perspective, close focus, wide angle of some of those macro subjects as well. So real, proper scenic wide angle, but then also that kind of close focus wide angle on your macro subject as well. Same dive, and again, you can flip it out of the way. You can flip in your CMC, and you're getting super macro. So again, we're trying to get you the most amount of flexibility with the highest quality image we can underwater.
Pretty dang cool.
Oh, we're not done yet. We got one more, and this one's new for me too. I first saw this when they got it out of the box the other day, and Kevin started assembling a fish tank, and I wondered what was going on here. And well, the answer came in the form of this. Okay, so the name on this one is the EMWL1, or Extended Macro Wide Lens 1, and it may look familiar or similar to some of you who may have been around for the Einon, I believe they call it the bug eye or the insect eye lens. I remember when we were living in Lembe, a couple people brought those along, and basically it's an endoscopic lens. Yeah, so the idea is being able to get in very close to subjects that may be recessed or maybe otherwise inaccessible, and be able to create an image at their level, right? So to really get right in there and get right up to their level to capture that image. But it's also giving you a 14 millimeter angle field of view at the end, and it's rectilinear, so you're not getting that same barrel distortion that you got a lot of with that Einon insect eye and other endoscopic lenses. And in addition to that, it is an f11 lens. So autofocus and everything should work great through it. Obviously, I haven't taken this out in the field yet, so I can't speak firsthand about it. But one of the great things about it, similar to the MWL1, you can take it off underwater. So this will work with the bayonet mount system. Obviously, a flip is not quite so practical right now. You probably hit yourself in the head. I'm sure we'll come up with something cool. Edward and the guys back at the lab, I'm sure they're going to come up with something neat. But for now, we do have it on that bayonet mount. So you can pop it off, hand it to your dive guide. If you got a big pocket, stick it in your pocket. And it sits in front of a 100 or 105 millimeter macro lens. So again, you're on a macro dive, you want to shoot a little wide, you want to shoot with this crazy perspective, bayonet mount that on, Bob's your uncle. Or you can use a different bayonet mounted lens like a SMC1 or an SMC2. So, we're just building up that arsenal for you so you can really capture as many different kinds of images as you want on one dive and really create some unique stuff.
And not have to sacrifice ultimate quality for ultimate versatility.
Absolutely, because unless it's right, it's not showing its face. These guys have in the lab have really come up with some amazing stuff, and it doesn't end up in your show here unless we know it's going to be good.
For sure. Well, Hergen, that's awesome, man. I mean, between the whole range of housings, everything from compact to cinema, which, by the way, it was really awesome having you come by the Backscatter studio and be able to cover all the cinema systems in detail earlier this year. That was a really fun day, just getting to kind of geek out with you on all those things. I mean, from any housing, optics, accessories, monitor housings, you guys just continuously have some of the coolest and most interesting stuff at the show. Really appreciate you taking the time to show it to us.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, and it was great being there the other day, and thank you guys so much for supporting our work and supporting Nauticam, and of course, I'm just grateful that I get to work for a company that really puts a lot of energy and effort into developing products that the end user really wants to see. And all of us here that work here, whenever this stuff comes out, it's great for us because we really want to use these tools, and it's great that they're really doing their best to put out tools that we want to see and that we want to use.
At the end of the day, we're just a couple of camera nerds too, right?
Exactly. I'm just happy to geek out with you whenever I can.
Thanks, Hergen.
Thanks, Robin.